Hey guys, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Killjoy Guide, the Left Feminist podcast for the 99%. I am your host, Killjoy Meg. Welcome to Mon. I am so excited to have you here.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so for those of you guys who don't know, Mon is, you may know her as Mon Loves You on Twitter. She is from Afghanistan, so she has graciously offered to come on the show to kind of help us understand what's happening in Afghanistan and also to talk about the way that we weaponize feminism in order to justify imperialist tendencies that we have in the East. So welcome to the show, Mon. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I was nervous, but it's exciting. I feel like I get to see everybody on Twitter that I always talk to.
Yeah, it like honestly, don't even feel bad. Like I felt so nervous the first time that the first time that Jackie asked me to come on her show to stream. Yeah. I was like, me? You want me to do it?
I agree. So, you're awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely nerve-wracking the first few times that you do it. But everyone is so gracious. You guys, please give a warm welcome to Mon. Like, I'm so excited to have her here. So please give her a warm welcome because she totally deserves it.
Thank you.
So thank you, Robin. Yes, welcome to the Killjoy Guide. Special guest, Mon. Yay!
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, we've been. All right. It's been tough couple of days for.
It has.
I haven't slept. Yeah. It's just hard. I think for our whole community, and I know it's hard for everybody, but for us, I feel like we just directly feel very just overwhelmed. I was talking to my sister last night, and I feel like I was like, we're reliving our trauma. I feel like this is happening. Everything is happening to us again because we escaped. We left the war, and the stuff that we're watching those pictures, we're watching those videos, and I feel like it's happening again to us.
So walk me through that. What exactly when did you leave Afghanistan?
So we left end of 99. So this is, so we got
so this was when that was when the Taliban was in control of Afghanistan during that time.
They started.
But before 9/11.
Before 9/11, right? So that's why I think at that time it wasn't as difficult. I think it took us about 4 years or so just to apply and come to us, but it wasn't as difficult. Right now it's impossible. It takes years.
Wow, that's amazing. So walk us through that, your experience kind of living under the Taliban and kind of the difference that you see then and now.
I mean, I have very various memories. I mean, I was very young, so I remember because my family, we used to live in Kabul. I went to first grade, I think, at that time, right before. I don't know if you know Dr. Najibullah. He was the socialist president at that time in Afghanistan. So we had a socialist government, and then the Mujahideen came. And everything was just chaos. They took over Kabul. They were looting. They were killing people. They were going into people's homes. So it was war. It was a civil war at that time. And
in the Mujahideen, that was the group that was backed by the United States.
Correct. Right. So this is when, again, as a kid, you don't understand much. My dad is a communist, so he would tell us, like he would explain, like he's like, this is what's happening. This is, he would set us down, and he's like, U.S. is funding this. Like this is their mission. This is their agenda. This is not between us. This is U.S.'s agenda to get to build up those terrorists and build up those mujahideen to come to. Afghanistan, and they were coming from all parts. I mean, there are different groups, and this is at that time. I remember just chaos, like just complete chaos, and going into hiding and getting out and going into hiding, and then around 96, I believe 96 is when the Taliban took over. We left to Pakistan for a little bit, and then think we went back, and it was just constant, going back and forth of just survival. And that's what these people are doing. They don't, like, the average people in Afghanistan do not understand the politics, like what is going on. They're just trying to survive. And that's why I try to tell people, I'm like, you don't know. All they're thinking is, I just want to be alive. Like, I have my family, and I just want to get to wherever I need to get to. They're not thinking.
I think we lost your sound there for a second.
But yeah, it's just, it changed in a way that the internal fighting wasn't as much between the groups, because, with the Northern Alliance, there is so many different, there's the Amacha Masood, and there was Dostum and Gulbuddin, right? They're different. With Taliban, it was them. So it was just, it was still, the chaos was different, I would say, where...
Yeah, the Taliban, they were students of the Pakistani Islamic schools, correct?
Right.
Correct?
But yes, but a lot of the Mujahideen turned into Taliban also.
Okay.
So they're not completely, like, different, where I know we have Pakistanis who are in the Taliban, we have Arabs who are in the Taliban. They were Mujahideen were mostly Afghans. But Taliban, they are from all over. They look different too. A lot of them spoke, other languages too, and just they were just more stricter, with the Sharia law and just how women should be home, and the schools have to be closed, and it was just complete, I think, chaos, and that's what I see people going through now. Where I understand that there are people who support them, right? I think people, like, I see people who support Taliban. I was talking to my aunt today again, and she said that, as long as we're not being bombed, as long as they're not suicide bombers, as long as we're not getting killed, we're okay. Like, they have come to that peace within themselves. They're like, at least nobody's killing us. Like, we just don't want war anymore.
It's like, that's such a low bar, right?
That's what it is. That's what they're literally like thinking. They're like, well, at least nobody's killing us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go back into the past just a little bit, because I don't think people really understand, like, the history of, like, Afghanistan. And so I was reading this piece right before we came on, so I want to bring this up. This is a piece from, it's called People's World. And this is an article that, so this writer she lived in Afghanistan. Her name is Marilyn Bechtel. Okay. She was an editor of New World Review. She visited Afghanistan twice in the 1980s. This was during the reign of the socialist president, as you mentioned. This was post the Soviet Afghan War.
What year was this? Because
80 and 81.
Yes.
Okay. Because the Soviets came in 79, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so the Soviet years from 1978 to 1989, there has been talk mostly understated about the role of the U.S. building up the Mujahideen forces, including the Taliban. But no one talks about the efforts of the Afghan people made in the late 1970s and 80s to pull free of the legacy of incessantly warring tribes and feudal fiefdoms and start to build a modern democratic state, or about the Soviet Union's role long before 1978. For instance, it says down here that during the 19th century, there was a lot of battle over Afghanistan between Russia and the British Empire.
Right.
But then in 1921, Amanullah Khan.
Amanullah Khan, yeah.
Okay. Sometimes referred to Afghanistan's Kemal Ataturk, sought to reassert his country's sovereignty and move it toward the modern world. As part of his efforts, he approached the new revolutionary government of Moscow, which responded by recognizing Afghanistan's independence and concluding the first Afghan-Soviet Friendship Treaty. From 1921 until 1929, when reactionary elements aided by the British forced Amanullah to abdicate. So again, this is all about imperialism. that first the British and now the United States trying to stop these bonds between Afghanistan and Russia. Yeah, because especially since it's 1921, this is already after the Bolshevik Revolution.
Right.
And we're now in Soviet Russia.
Right, because we asked Russia to come, right?
Yeah.
So this at that time, of course, and we did have our
we're talking about a friendship treaty.
Right. They there were people who were against it, right? Because you understand, majority of Afghans are Muslim, right? This is it's a Muslim majority. It's a Muslim majority. So for us, so there was a lot of people who were against the Russians, and we don't like, nobody wants to be invaded regardless, right? Or other countries to be meddling in your country. But I am going, this might just be my own personal experience or my family. I don't want to speak for Afghans in general. We were happy. My mom was happy. My dad had, for me, that's how I see it. Because we were in, we were in Kabul. We were fine, right? Like women had jobs. Women were going to school. We were progressing. We were getting somewhere. Did we have ethnic division? Absolutely. We've had that for as long as Afghanistan has been.
And that's going to be true of really any country, even here in the United States. Like, yeah, we might be seen as a progressive nation, but we still have right-wing forces who want to have women go back to the kitchen, or restrict women's reproductive rights. Like, this is not any different. Like, these are still always going to be, there's always going to be a push and pull in any nation that we're talking about.
Right.
And you're going to have conservative and progressive people.
Right. But besides that, because Afghanistan's a Pashtun majority, they other ethnicities have been not treated well over the course of our history. They haven't, because they were not empowered, that whatever the majority was, that not whether it comes to just being treated well and just with work and the money, right? So Pashtuns had the power and they got to do whatever they wanted. And let's be honest here. So that itself caused a lot of fracture.
Yeah, because I also read that that the Taliban, who are mostly Pashtun, I'm assuming, is that they are oh, you muted yourself.
Sorry, go ahead.
But they are also very discriminatory against Hindu and Sikh.
Everyone. So anyone that's not Pashtun. That's I would say those are the populations that are mostly in danger right now. Are the Tajiks. They're the Hazaras, right? We barely even have any Sikhs left in Afghanistan, because they left the last time Taliban were there, between 96 to 2001. They got killed. They had no security. They were constantly being burglarized. Their temples, we had different ethnicities in Afghanistan, but a lot of them left during the Taliban, even before and during the Mujahideen time. And the other minorities, they are the ones that are mostly in danger, because they get treated horribly, especially the Hazara community. They got killed in numbers during.
And who are the Hazara community?
They are I don't know how to, I don't want to answer that, because I feel like I'll be wrong. They are a minority. They're from the Mongols. I would say. Don't quote me on this, but they're our minority. But again, amazing people. I love them, and they get discriminated against the most in Afghanistan. Sure.
Oh goodness. All right, let's go back to that piece just for a moment. So, all right, so we are now in the 1920s. So we have the Russian and Afghan alliance, basically, a friendship treaty. So this is going on, but we still have British forces trying to, in reactionary elements, they get Amanullah to abdicate. But the Soviet continued to help launch. They continued their relationship with the Afghan government and helped them to build infrastructure projects, power plants, water resources, transport, communications. Afghan students went to Soviet technical schools and universities, but those projects did languish a little bit after Amanullah's departure. But then, so it goes on to say that in the 1960s, a resurgence of their projects included the Kabul Polytechnic Institute, the country's prime educational resource for engineers, geologists, other specialists. And this continued even through, you can go to, people have been posting pictures on Twitter, for instance, and I can go to that for a moment. Let me switch how I'm showing my screen.
Yeah.
And maybe that will help. That way I can just go from tab to tab. Where is... Oh, I hit stop screen. That'll help. Share screen. Okay. So our good friend Mo, he posted this tweet about Kabul in the 60s and 70s. And as we can see, there was we don't see women in,
burqas. Right.
They're in sweaters and, knee-length skirts and boots.
And that's how I've seen my mom. That's how I've seen my mom, right? That's how I've seen my aunts growing up. When I was in Afghanistan, that were there women wearing burqas at that time in different rural areas of Afghanistan? Yes, they burqa has I know the one that you've seen, the one that covers your face. The blue one, it's usually blue, and it has a net in the front. So they were women who were wearing, but they still had a choice to dress differently, right? That was not a requirement. People did wear them. The more religious ones, the girls in university were allowed to at least have some form of
right, like our ladies here in their short skirts and their dresses,
right? Somebody said to me, do short skirts or revealing clothes, does it mean independence or modernization? No, it doesn't. I don't think your clothing has anything to do with freedom. Fine.
Yeah. But it goes to show, the whole point is of why we show, the way that the girls are dressing then is because of the fact that just shows that, because, they love to say, oh, the United States, girls are able to get education underneath the United States, is someone shared a story with me today about the fact that women have to hide the Taliban's coming back, they had to hide their degrees and stuff like that. Well, they were able to get degrees back then too. No one's but they also didn't have bombs.
Right? Exactly.
They didn't have bombs being dropped on them every other day.
Modernization, again, it's not just about clothing, right? It's about choices, and were they able to go to school? Were they able to work? Were they able to make life choices? Were they able to leave their house without a male taking them places? That's the point. It's not just the clothing. That's why I don't want people to get radicalization and extremism confused with Islam. Afghanistan has always had Islam. We've been a Muslim country. People were able to be Muslims, but still have to have some form of freedom. This is not this whole shit that this isn't Islam. This is extremism, and they don't want that. Because I've seen a lot of people well, aren't you happy now that this is a Muslim government taking over? No, it's not. This is not what people want. They want to have choices. And I know I heard Taliban saying that it's not going to be different. It's going to be different this time.
Is it though, friend?
Is it though?
Is it though?
We've been, like I said, we've been having discourse every day with the Afghan community. I have lots of Afghan friends. I was at the protest on Saturday in DC, and we were all like, oh, let's be hopeful. Let's be hopeful. Maybe it won't be as bad. Maybe people will not get lashes for showing white socks. That's what happened to my aunt, because she had a white sock, not black socks, under her burqa, and they could see through it, this much of white socks. And they said it's white, so they lashed her foot. They were like, oh, it's not going to be like that. And I said, well, I don't believe
it's going to be different. Yeah.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that people like that can change suddenly with how
Right.
are they being more careful? Absolutely. I think they're, with this isn't 96 anymore, right? So this is there's
Mhm.
technology now.
Yeah, there has to be PR. They have to worry a little bit about the PR.
Absolutely. Everybody's watching them. I have a friend, her husband is there, and he is working on a project still, so he's still stuck in Afghanistan. So he was saying that they get stopped at checkpoints, and the Taliban are very careful with how they treat them because he's American. So he's like, these people are very smart now how they treat people, because they know everybody's watching. They know the whole international community is watching. Like, how are you treating people? So they have to have put some kind of a. Do I wish for the best? Yeah, but I don't think.
Right, and I think that's one of the weird dichotomies that people have. It's like, it's not that we want it's not that we want the Taliban to take over. None of us are fighting for the Taliban to take over. None of us are happy about the Taliban taking over. But we also don't want the U.S. intervening, because that, in a lot of cases, just makes things worse.
Yeah. So again, that's a very complicated,
topic absolutely.
And that's why, like I said, speaking with different Afghans, different people, Afghans from different parts of Afghanistan have different opinions about it, right? You're talking what? I correct me if I'm getting the numbers wrong. 200,000 dead Afghans in the past 20 years, and you're talking 69,000 Afghan soldiers dead. For what? What did you accomplish? How can those people like you when you're killing them? Like, and then you expect them to fight? They're not going to.
Right.
Nobody wants, again, and Afghans don't do well with invaders regardless. We didn't do well with when the English were there, 3 times. They don't like them. So it doesn't matter if your intentions are good, and they weren't with the US, but they prefer someone, even some people prefer Taliban over America, because they're like, well, at least they're our people, right? At least they're not droning us. I have literally had people tell me this. So at least we're not being droned. At least we're not. At least there's not suicide bombings to get rid of America. At least we know it's just us. So there's different, and there are people who are very upset. They're for us, leaving after all this time. They're like, well, why did they abandon us like this? How could you just throw us back into?
Right. And, we've seen, the images, at the airport of, the plane trying to take off, and people like latching onto the plane. And it's like, that's so heartbreaking to see. But then also to hear that Americans were shooting people at the airport as well. And it's like, okay, I don't know what's more heartbreaking. The fact that they are begging the United States to take them with them, to save them from the Taliban, or the fact that Americans were shooting people at the airport. Both of those situations are really just kind of stomach churning. Right. Jay Jackson. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Just want to give a shout out to Jay Jackson. Thank you so much for the super chat. You are a blessing. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Go ahead.
So the lack of care, the lack of sympathy or empathy for a human being, like, these are human beings, we're looked down upon as, like, why do you think you're better? Yeah, why is that? Why do you think you're better than us? Why do you think your life matters more than 16 and 17-year-old who they're trying to hang on to life? They have never been on a plane before. They didn't know that. I mean, some people are like, oh, didn't they know the dangers? No, they were just trying. They're doing anything to survive. They just to get something, some just to have a life, like a chance at life, and it just so mercilessly they didn't stop, and these pictures are going around, like, it kills me. And like I told you, we all cry because we're so helpless, and it drives me insane that these people think that they can just toss, human beings like that, and treat us like we're subhuman. Like, why? Why?
Exactly.
Who put you in
100%.
that position? Who are you? Why do you think you can do that? Like, it's insane to me.
Right, exactly. And that makes me think about this article that I was reading yesterday that I shared. So one of the things, this was from The Nation, and which is talking about the U.S. leaves Afghanistan. Right, there's some feedback there. I'm just gonna silence your mic for a second. So from The Nation that as the U.S. leaves, anti-war feminists push a new approach, but it's talking a little bit about when the U.S. first came into Afghanistan, and groups like RAWA, which is the Revolutionary Association of Women of Afghanistan, they were saying like the political situation is made ever more precarious by what many Afghans perceive to be U.S. aggression against our country and our civilians, even as we cheer the possibility of the Taliban's demise. And continued and increasing foreign assistance to the reviled Northern Alliance, a military coalition assembled by leaders of the pre-Taliban Islamic government, has plunged our people into a horrifying anxiety and fear. So Majra, a U.S.-based international women's rights organization founded in 1983, was, in response to the U.S.-sponsored Contra War, condemned the invasion as a war crime. And Susskind from Majra continued to say, "We saw the invasion and occupation as actually strengthening the hand of the ultra-conservatives of Afghanistan, because they had this really powerful rallying cry of defending the country from foreign invaders, which the U.S. created by being a foreign invader." So in dialogue with Afghan women, we felt like the decades and decades of war had created conditions that were actually inimical to the success of the Afghan women's movement. So rather than aiding in the the liberation of women, rather it was just making matters worse, because now you have the United States coming in as a foreign invader, making it easier for the Taliban to recruit people, because foreign invaders coming into our country, we need to come together in order to force these invaders out. So this is one of the reasons why we're so vocal about the fact that the United States war on terror is not a war on terror, because all you're doing is creating more terrorists.
Again, talking about feminism, and it was a feminist mission. That's what George W. Bush said. That
right.
we're going to liberate. We're gonna go liberate women by killing them. That's the best way. Let's drone them to death, and then that solves your feminist issue.
Right. It's almost like a serial. I used this analogy the other day. It's almost like a serial killer saying, "I'm going to kill women in order to protect them."
Right. That's exactly what it is. Right. Like, how are you? And their silence right now drives me crazy. And I do see feminists talking right now. Do you see them, advocating for women's rights right now? I don't. Like, what happened? What happened to the feminist issue? What happened to the human rights? When you're going into war, when you're going into, again, invading another country, you're literally droning them. Just to free the woman. But what about now? What happened to the woman? You literally, again, 20 years, and what happened to those women now? They're still there, right? So it's just it's bullshit, and that's what it is. The whole concept of it is bullshit, and that's why I always say there's feminism and there's white feminism, because feminism, right? It should be a human rights issue. It's not just why aren't you holding your country accountable for the woman they're killing? That the women who are going to be widowed in a country like Afghanistan, a widow woman or a child with no father, you've killed you're killing farmers, you're droning farmers. What's going to happen to their wives? What's going to happen to their daughters? How is this not so is all this crap to me? Like, I laugh at it, and I think it's bullshit, and people buy that, and people still buy it.
Right, exactly. And it's almost the same as the way that the United States, by getting rid of Saddam Hussein, which, again, Saddam Hussein was not a good dude. We can all acknowledge that Saddam Hussein was not a good dude. But by getting rid of Saddam Hussein, you then left an opening for ISIS. And what did ISIS do when they came into Iraq? They made the slaves, made sex slaves, and they harmed Yazidi women. And the United States did absolutely nothing about it. So, like, we see also in, like, Libya, we have slave markets in Libya because of U.S. intervention. It's like, so it's hard to say, like, yes, these dictators are bad, which is really quite ironic considering a lot of these dictators were once U.S. allies, like Saddam Hussein. But then once he's making decisions that the United States doesn't like, I'm not sure what broke the relationship between the U.S. and Saddam Hussein. I don't know that history, but I think it'd be very interesting. I honestly have no idea, but it still goes to show, like, whenever you get rid of these dictators with regime change, they're not thinking through what's the power vacuum that's going to exist once that dictator is gone. Like, yeah, that dictator's bad, but what if what comes after is worse?
Can't after work. Because they don't care.
Exactly.
It's not, they know, they don't care. They didn't care about, if you think Afghanistan is a huge tragedy, Iraq is even a worse tragedy. Sure, Saddam Hussein was bad. He still had supporters. Iraq was in a much better position when Saddam was there than it is now. Look at what did they turn Iraq into? If Saddam Hussein is a horrible man, so is George W. Bush, so is Barack Obama, so is Trump, so is Biden. How are they not war criminals if he was? They need to have the same faith as him. If we're gonna stand here and be so pious and so great to hold war criminals, accountable, let's hold them accountable. It's nothing
right.
It's about control. It's about their resources.
Exactly.
It's about stealing the oil. That's what Iraq has.
Right. It's like, exactly like even Nixon has said this, that going into the East, it's not a humanitarian effort. It's about control. It's about having control over that region. It's about having control over resources, because there are a lot of resources, not just oil or whatever, in Afghanistan. There are a lot of minerals that can be mined in Afghanistan.
And it's mostly for its geopolitical, position, like where it's located. It's in the heart of Asia. It's
right. And guess what's just north there? Right. You got China to the east. You got Russia to the north.
That's what has gotten us most of the, because we become the target for as long as we have. It's mostly because of that. Resources too, I'm sure. There's a lot into it, but that's been our biggest, the reason why people keep getting involved. And we don't have a friend. And like we were literally, discussing this. Like we don't have an ally that is not trying to use us. That's not even China, even Russia, even Pakistan that's next to us. Everybody's trying to get something for themselves, and that's why for us, it's hard to even count on anyone, right? We just as a nation, I just like my sister and I were talking. We're like we're mourning right now. We're just, we don't know how to deal with this, because it's 40 years of war, and for a lot of Americans it's 20 years. For Afghans it's 40 years. We haven't, because a lot of Americans didn't even know the name of Afghanistan prior to 9/11. They still can't locate it on a map. But for us, we've been in a war for 40 years, and that's what a lot of Afghans want right now. They just want an end to war. They just want to live in peace, like for once. The generation that's younger than us, the 19, 20-year-olds, they just want to live in peace. And they're like, so just give us peace, just leave us alone, get out, just please, like, just leave us alone. And that's why when Biden comes and gives us a stupid little speech about the Afghan government ran away, and our soldiers didn't fight. We lost 69,000. This is not something new. This is not like, just because it's on MSNBC now, there's a news about it. This is not something new that we're fighting. These poor boys have fought for years without resources, without money, without food. And then you expect them to fight for whom? Who should they fight for? What government? The one you installed, right?
Right. And
who was Ghani? Ghani wasn't elected by us. 1% of the population, less than 1% voted for. We did not elect Ghani. He's a US puppet who's placed there prior to just like Karzai was. Karzai was a puppet. We didn't want him. We don't. So why would people show loyalty or fight for a government that's not even theirs? They don't care.
Right. Exactly.
That's why they ran away, because they don't care. They're taking millions of dollars, billions, and they ran.
Yeah. So this is a good question from Mariana. She's asking, so there is no democracy in this country, meaning the United States. So how are we supposed to bring something we don't have in this country to another country through our military? And, you know, that also kind of gets to our point too about like the idea of feminism and that in those countries as well. Like, oh, we must save the women. But like, we don't even take care of our own women. You know, we don't take care of the women here. We don't take care of the women in Saudi Arabia. We don't care. We're not helping the women of Yemen or Palestine. So how exactly are we going to protect the women of Afghanistan? You know?
That's the irony, right? Where somebody, I think there was a meme where I saw a comparison of like Texas to Afghanistan. They're like, we're so worried about human rights and women's rights in Afghanistan. What Texas? Like we're talking about abortion still in America in 21st century, in the most developed country in the world, in the richest country in the world. Why are we still talking about this stuff here? Solve your own crap. Like, don't. That's the thing, and that's drives us crazy. Again, do I believe that U.S. has a responsibility to Afghan people? Absolutely. I us in our diaspora, we feel like you created this mess. The least you could have done is leave with some form of accountability to the people that you used, to the at least the ones who helped you. There are thousands stranded there. You just leaving so mercilessly and horribly. No, you don't get to do that. So I do feel like U.S. is responsible for that. Should they have gone in the first place? No. Then they shouldn't have been involved 40 years ago too. Leave us alone. Why do you care if we're socialists or not? Why was that any business? Like, why? So then, yeah, it is your problem. Right. You created the terrorists. Now go get rid of them. And now that they're and I said this, I think in my post too. This doesn't end in Afghanistan. This is not going to be a small issue. This is going to come bite U.S. in the butt again. And they don't learn from history. That's something U.S. does not learn from their own history. Like, you keep doing this and it's going to come back to you. This is just like it did, with Osama bin Laden. Like, but and who pays the price? Our poor people. Poor people.
Right. And there's another great question here from Garrett, who asks, so Megan or Man, given the current vacuum, whom do you think will exploit this opportunity? China, Pakistan, Iran, or others? I know for a fact that, because I know I saw this news article that China is now in the process of, they're going to recognize the Taliban and try to make deals with the Taliban. So I definitely think China is trying to move into that space. You have something to say, Man?
Same. I agree with you. I think China is probably the first. They have the money, they have the resources, and I think they're going to be the first ones to. I think same article I probably read too, that they are mining, and they're going to make it, have a, and they're one of the first countries to actually acknowledge Taliban as a actual government. So I think they. I think China is going to be the first one. Pakistan has always been there. Pakistan does not know how to not get involved in Afghanistan's politics. I think it's so involved in us since its actual birth in 1947 that they're always going to be involved in one way or another. And whenever Taliban go into hiding, they go back. Even when Mujahideen, they went back to Pakistan. That's where it gives them shelters. That's where they get a lot of funding from there too. So
yeah, and Javier had a follow-up question of, Man, what do you think about the future relationship between the Taliban and China, Russia?
I don't know. I think again, Taliban are going to be much different. I think, are they going to be different with how they treat people? I don't think so. But again, I'm no political analyst, and I'm a nurse. I don't know these things, but I think they're going to be different with how they have relationships with foreign countries, because they want to be an actual, they're gonna, they want to have a long term, they want to stay there forever, so they need to have build relationships with their allies. They hate US, so they're going to be with US's enemies, and I think that's how it always works, right? It's you're either on this side or that side. So I think they're going to definitely try to build a relationship with China, especially China. I know Russia had said that they're staying away, but I don't know about that. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Meg? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think this is a good comment too. Women and children in Syria are being abused, bombed, and injured due to U.S. invasion. It's absolutely true. Like,
of course,
all these countries, once the U.S. gets involved, you know, whatever progress is being made there just like goes down the drain. And we can continue talking a little bit about the history of Afghanistan in just a moment. But I definitely agree with you that because we also saw China, China's also starting to make trade deals with Iran. So China is definitely seeing in its, whatever Cold War we had with the Soviet Union that started a lot of this mayhem, like all this domino theory, like we saw this happen in Vietnam. Like, oh, China and Russia, they've gone to communist. We must stop that from happening in Vietnam. And of course, Vietnam was also an imperialist project. So they were trying to protect Vietnam because at that time it was still a French colony. So they're basically helping France to keep Vietnam underneath their control. And of course, they couldn't let Vietnam fall to communism because of the domino theory. So now we saw that again in Afghanistan in the 70s, in the 80s, when we had the U.S. propping up the Mujahideen in order to defeat the Soviet Union there. So all of these wars are basically just proxy wars between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. And now we're getting a proxy wars between the United States and China, because China is now going to be having deals with Iran, and they're going to be having deals with the Taliban. So this is now becoming a proxy Cold War between the United States and China.
That's exactly it, right? And the rest of us just become pawns, right? Especially small countries that don't have a lot of power, they don't have a lot of say, they don't have strong governments, and there's already internal. There's a lot of tension between the country itself. So then these countries come and they take advantage of that, right? It's easy to take advantage of a country where people already have issues, right? People already have their division. So you feed to that division, just like it happened with us, in the 80s with the US came and they knew that we had these problems with each other. So they fed that. And they that's how they prompted, the Mujahideen, that's how they funded them, and that's how they built schools. That's how they raised them, and that's how they sent them. Like, oh, go! You see that group? They're the bad ones. You're the better ones. So it's against each other. They're not Muslim enough. Go make them Muslim. Like, oh, you don't need to have a socialist government. Like, this is a Muslim country. So they, and those are, again, these are a lot of people are uneducated, but passionate people, and then that's what happens. I think that's probably what's going to happen. It's going to continue happening until we have, as long as we have these world powers, other countries are going to be used as pawns. And tell me a country where US has gotten involved and the situation's gotten better. Which especially in our side, which country has gotten better? Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan.
I can't name one.
No, because that's not what they go for, right? They go to destabilize, because a destabilized nation is easier to control.
Yes, exactly. Because that's what it's all about. It's all about control over the region. That way you have, if they are in control of Afghanistan, they can have bases there. And that way they're in close proximity with their big enemies, which are China and Russia. And they have all those minerals at the ready. And that's what a lot of this is about too, is about, this is all about capitalism and the fact that, we have different military contractors who want to have, contractors in those areas in order to nation build. And extract resources out of those countries that they can benefit from.
3% of the funding that went into Afghanistan, 3% of it went into nation building and building infrastructure. The other 97%, I don't know what happened to all of it, but I know a lot of it went to corrupt politicians. A lot of it went to contractors. Again, we're talking what, $2 or $3 trillion in Afghanistan. What happened to this money? And I didn't go to the regular people. They didn't go to poor folk. You go to Afghanistan, and I went. The last time I went was in 2008. There was nothing. It was worse than when I had left. So I didn't see any wonderful infrastructure, or beautiful buildings and roads and schools that I was like, oh, money is going here. Yeah, it's a tragedy, and it's tragedy for us here because they're like, all this money, and I see people's tweets about all this money we could have used for our country, like here, and we could have had use it for much better, for healthcare or education, and look what it's going to.
Yeah, exactly. There was no real nation building. Like, even the women who were able to get education, I'm sure most of those women were already privileged. Probably, I'm assuming. I'm sure that a lot of the rural women probably weren't the ones getting a lot of education.
Yeah, because city, again, in Kabul, it's completely, a lot of the life is much different than rural areas in general, regardless. But yeah, the people were able to, at least there were colleges, at least there were women were able to go to school. Like my cousins alone, I have lots of cousins there. I have 47, 48 first cousins, so I have I have a huge family, and a lot of them are in Afghanistan, and some of them have children, and some of the girls, they have been to school and they're doctors. And I told you, I spoke to my aunt today, and she said, she's like, I went to work today. The girls have not, because they're doctors. They're young. Young. They're in her early 20s. So they're like, we're scared to send them. So I don't think that she's going to send them for a while. She herself said she went. It was okay. She said it was really quiet. And her husband, he's also a physician. So he's like, he's going to go. But they're hopeful, and then they're just trying, to survive. I'm hoping that we can help them come here or go somewhere else, because it's not sustainable. It's not. It's survival, but how long can you live like that for?
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of going back to what we were referring to a moment ago, like even just like the history of Afghanistan. Let me go back to this article that we were talking about of Mohammed Zahir Shah, who, as you said, he was the one who was overthrown by the. Was he the one overthrown by the Mujahideen? Is that correct?
Dr. Najib was.
Okay. Sorry. Let me fix my screen here. That way I can have it on both. Sometimes hard to know which way is the best way to put these things up on the screen. All right, so this was the mid-1960s. National Democratic Revolutionary Currents had coalesced to form the People's Democratic Party. 1973, local bourgeois forces, aided by PDP elements, overthrew the 40-year reign of Mohammed Zahir Shah, the man who... Oh, hold on. Mute that for a second. A little bit of feedback there. So they overthrew the Shah. Zahir Shah, the man who at age 86 is now being promoted by U.S. right-wing Republicans as the percentage around which Afghanis can unite. So I'm probably sure that's not a good idea. When the PDP assumed power in 1978, they started to work for a more equitable distribution of economic and social resources. Among their goals were the continuing emancipation of women and girls from the age-old tribal bondage, a process begun under Zahir Shah, equal rights for minority nationalities, including the country's most oppressed groups, the Hazara, as you mentioned earlier, and increasing access for ordinary people to education, medical care, decent housing, and sanitation. So during the 2 visits that she made to Afghanistan, she's noticed that women were working together in handicraft co-ops, where for the first time they could be paid decently for their work and control the money they earned. Adults, both women and men, learning to read, women working as professionals and holding leading government positions, including Minister of Education. Poor working families able to afford a doctor and to send their children, girls and boys, to school. This is all during the 80s. This was before the Mujahideen. The cancellation of peasant debt in the start of land reform. Fledgling peasant cooperatives, price controls, and price reductions on some key foods, aid to nomads interested in a settled life. But then she also noticed the bitter attacks of Mujahideen, attacks by the same groups that now make up the Northern Alliance, in those years aimed especially at schools and teachers in rural areas. So this was all during the development of Afghanistan underneath the Afghan-Soviet Friendship Treaty. So this was a period between the 1970s and 1980s that there was that bond between Afghanistan and Russia or Soviet Russia, I should say, that was able to create a lot of opportunity for people, because we saw socialism really starting to make these different modernizations and make life a little bit better for the people in Afghanistan. So, and then we had the Mujahideen, who then came in, and like as Mon was saying earlier, that these groups later became both the Northern Alliance, and some became Northern Alliance, others became the Taliban. Is that correct, Mon?
Well, initially, we didn't have Taliban. I mean, we didn't hear of them up until
the 90s.
Right, like up to mid-90s, almost 92, 93, I would say. Don't quote me on the dates. But and we only had the Northern Alliance, right? We, again, I told you, they consisted of different groups amongst themselves, and they didn't get along. They were fighting over Kabul. They were fighting over different spots in Afghanistan. And that itself created, that was our civil war that created the chaos. And they arrested, Dr. Najib at that time. And they were like, no, we don't want, the socialist government. We don't want it. When this is a Muslim country, and backed by, again, U.S. and Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. They were sending them lots of money. They were pumping them with money. And I think you saw the clip of Hillary Clinton admitting, how much money they were giving to the Mujahideen for the schools and all the missiles they were getting and the bombs that they were getting. So at this point, once Dr. Najib was still getting funding from Russia, even after the Soviet collapsed. I think once the Soviets stopped giving funding, that's when Dr. Najib collapsed too, because there was no support from him. He was by himself basically, and that's when he got arrested. And this was again 92, 93 maybe. And they were there till up to 96. That's when Taliban, Taliban is some of it. I don't know where exactly they're coming from, because I know some of them is the Mujahideen, and then also from other parts. And a lot of them are from the northern, where is that? The NWFP area is between the Pakistan and Afghanistan, the border area. So a lot of them from there too. And that's when, they were completely against. And that's when they won. They won Kabul by 96, I believe. I think it's April. And that's when they hung Dr. Najib in public in 96.
Wow.
They hung him. And I remember we were super young, and just seeing the pictures, just like, because people went there and watched them, hang the socialists. That they called him, the commie. Let's kill him, and he didn't leave. He was a very, I'm a huge Dr. Najib fan, and I loved him because he was a very brave man. He did not run away. He had chances to run away, just like this other guy. He didn't. He stayed. He said, "Arrest me. I don't care." And he was brutally murdered by the Taliban.
Yeah, that's very tragic. But so basically, considering the timeline, we can really associate the fall of the Soviet Union with the ability for the Taliban to really fill the gap, that power vacuum. Is that might be an accurate statement?
Yes, I think again with the Mujahideen, once the Soviet Union lost a lot of money, and for them, we always say their collapse was more financial than anything. After their collapse, the Mujahideen actually, are the ones that were able to take over, and they were able to take over Kabul. Taliban came a little later. I think it's about 3-4 years later, I would say.
But yeah, but definitely setting up that the environment that made the Taliban able to come in and take over.
Right.
Yeah. So just goes to show that imperialism is never good. U.S. intervention is not a good thing. This is not helpful. But especially when you have, once the United States comes in, like now that they're leaving, like I predicted back when I was in 9th grade, back right before we were about to go into Afghanistan, like we had just finished studying Vietnam. And I was like, this is going to be our generation's Vietnam War. I knew it in my heart of hearts. I was like, this is going to be our generation's Vietnam War. And I think that I was right. And even the fact that we had planes, like helicopters, picking people off of buildings, like this has really come to fruition that this is in fact our generation's Vietnam War. 100%.
And that's why it's so tragic. We say history repeats itself, but even if it doesn't, it rhymes, right? Like that's literally, you watch it happen in front of you, and you can't do anything, and it's just helplessness, and it's tragic. Because at the end of the day, again, I always tell people, like, I don't give a shit. I don't care about your stupid country. I don't care about you the reasons. I don't care. I care about the poor people who are going to be the ones paying the price, because these politicians, the millionaires, the ones who have the money, and even in the country, the ones who have money are going to be escaping. They're going to be the ones, they get away with everything. It's the poor man. It's the ones who are living day to day, and they just want to live in peace. They are the ones that suffer, regardless.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So all that being said, I think let's try to understand a little bit about, one of the big reasons why, like, I particularly am very anti-war is that, we don't often, we talk a lot, or men's rights activists like to talk a lot about the fact that men tend to die more in war because as casualties, as soldiers, but we never ever talk about the fact that the biggest casualties in war are women, because women are casualties because as civilian deaths, they suffer from their husbands who are sent off to war or who are murdered. They have to exist after the fact and be on their own, particularly in a country like Afghanistan, which has Sharia law, in which women can't go out on their own. Okay, so who's going to protect those women once their husbands are gone? If they live in that type of society, they're basically left on their own to become, the wives of, the Taliban or something. So because we're murdering their husbands and their brothers and whoever else is in their family, women tend to be raped, trophies of war. Like I said, being married off to different warlords, being raped, being sexually trafficked. This is the reality of what happens when these wars happen. Women are very much a casualty of war. Like, this is the reality. Like, we can talk about, how many male soldiers die in war, but we very rarely talk about the civilian casualties. Like, millions of Iraqis are dead. Thousands of Afghans are dead because of U.S. intervention in a lot of these countries. So many Syrians are either dead or displaced. so many Libyans are dead or displaced or in slave markets. Like, this is what is happening because of U.S. intervention in a lot of these countries.
Yeah, it's just that, like I said earlier, that there's no value in our lives. Like we're not considered human beings. The bodies are just, anywhere else you see, 9/11 happened, and we're like, 3,000 people died tragically. We could lose that daily, and nobody bats an eye. Like, these are human, and that's what drives me crazy. Where I'm like, what who determines value of our lives? Those, like earlier, those poor boys who were hanging on to the U.S. Plane. Nobody asked who they were. Nobody cares. It's just it's that's why it breaks my heart, and it breaks our community's heart, and where it just, our lives are so worthless because of these capitalist imperialist nations that come just for their benefit, without any care, or without anything, for the human beings, for our women. Like you said, they're the biggest casualties, especially in a country like Afghanistan, because a widow woman has no options. What is she going to do? She's not only a victim of imperialism, she's a victim of the culture too. A lot of these countries, I admit it, I'm from there and I love my country, but it's a man-dominated society. It's a patriarchy. What options does a woman have without a man? She doesn't. Even in general, she doesn't have much options. And then you take more from her. Like, what is she gonna do? Like, one of my cousins, I sent some money to her today, and my mom said, she's like, her husband is sick and he might be dying. He has kidney failure. And all I was thinking was, like, she's 5 kids. What is she going to do? And right now, she can't treat her husband because he can't work with the Taliban, and he's scared. So he's home. So I was like, let me, let's collect some money. Let's send him some money. What is she going to do? What is she going to do? So we're screwed. And I always say this, we're screwed on both sides. We're screwed because of radical Islamists who come, these terrorists that the US creates. We're screwed by drones. And people say, that oh, at least, one is better than the other or whatever. But I'm like, no, they both suck. Like, I don't want either of them. I don't want it. I don't want the US there, and I don't want that. Why? We just want to live in peace. We just want to have normal lives, or for just a chance at a normal life.
Right, exactly. And it's like, I had just displayed that that I lost it. Oh yeah, Deep Moody Purple Blue says patriarchy's inevitable result, which is very true, because like, these are not, wars being started by women. Although we'll talk about the fact about women being involved in the military industrial complex. We'll definitely get into that, because that's a big part of our discussion about imperialist feminism. But these are wars being fought by men for started by men, fought by men, for the benefits of men and male-dominated societies. It's like, these are not matriarchies doing this. These are all patriarchies, and women are just, pawns in the scheme. And that's really what it's. Women are just pawns, and we'll get into that in just a moment about how much women are pawns in their schemes. There was another, where was it? I just had another comment as well about, yes, James Root, who says, you guys don't like the military industrial complex being run by women? Sexist. And, like, of course, that's the irony, isn't it? And that's what we're talking about, imperialist feminism. That imperialist feminism is not just women being involved in the military industrial complex, but very much, like, a lot of people were talking about Marianne Williamson and her tweet about, oh, maybe we should stay because, we have to protect the women. It's like, oh, okay. we need to protect the women, but who exactly, by having the US stay in Afghanistan, they weren't protecting women very well when they were there. Like, they caused just as much harm as they did good. And that's the problem with the whole thing. It's like, you can't say that, oh, we must now stay. This is going to be an inevitable result no matter when, if the United States leaves 10 years ago, now, or 20 years in the future. Because you can't destabilize a country to the extent the United States has and expect that it's all going to be sugar and rainbows when we leave. This was an inevitable result.
Marion was, she's funny. I don't know, she was normal for some time and then she's weird. But
the U.S. does not protect Black women. You're right.
No, and but
women.
Sorry, give me 1 second. 1 second. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. All right. Well, she is.
No, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry. So, I had a knock on the door, but yeah, no, she's funny. And again, the thing is, yeah, okay, they protect women. How are we protecting women? Like, by killing them, by droning them, by droning their husbands, their sons. Like I said, 200,000 deaths. Like, how are we protecting women? Yeah, we did hand the woman over to Taliban, which is literally going from one hell to the next hell. It's not. It's a lose-lose situation, right? Like, there's no. Were they able to at least work? Were they able to at least go to school? We don't know what the future holds now. But again, we don't want America in our country forever. Like, how 20 years is long enough. What could they have? I know I've been debating with a friend of mine about this, and could US have left slowly? Could they have left a few a few soldiers just like they have, and they have it in other countries where they have a couple of hundred just to keep the peace, just to keep it. No, I don't think US is capable of that. That's why I don't trust US to be able to do that. Because I don't trust that US can stay in a country unless it's benefiting it, unless it's looting in one way or another. I don't, because I know people are like, oh yeah, they could have left a couple just to keep it in check, so then Taliban were not coming. No, Taliban will come no matter what, because in 20 years you're not able to get rid of 70-something thousand cavemen. What is the use of all this technology then? What did you do with all this money? What did you do with all the equipment? You literally have the best equipments in the whole world, and you couldn't get rid of 70,000 cavemen who can't tell the difference between their head and their butt. They can't. And so yeah, what were we gonna do? What that you couldn't accomplish in 20 years? I don't think so. I don't trust that US could do anything wonderful by staying a couple more months, a couple more years. No. If they wanted to, what they have, yeah, but they don't want to. They don't.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to bring up this this tweet that I put up yesterday, because I quoted a definition of imperialist feminism from Professor Kumar, who so this is Deepak Kumar. Hold on, sorry, I gotta mute your mic again. A weird clicking. I don't know what that is. I think that's just like an echo. I think that's what that is. So, imperialist feminism, as defined by Deepak Kumar, says that imperialist feminism is also known as colonial feminism, gendered orientalism, woke intersectional imperialism, woke imperialism, however you want to call it. But it's the appropriation of women's rights, though I think I would say that intersectional imperialism is a little different, but we'll talk about that in a moment. But so imperialist feminism is the appropriation of women's rights in the service of empire. So birthed in the 19th century in the context of European colonialism, much like like the British Empire, it rests on the construction of a barbaric, misogynistic Muslim world that must be civilized by a liberal, enlightened West. So that's what enlightened or imperialist feminism is all about. Is the idea that, oh, we must protect women's rights in the East because they're so barbaric, and they hate women so much that we must protect them by bringing our enlightened Western values to, we must bring democracy to these evil Eastern countries where Muslims have taken over. This very much is a gendered Orientalism of, we have to protect the Muslim women from the Muslim men, not realizing that, not understanding, yes, they are being oppressed. Muslim women are being oppressed, but they also have agency of their own. Like, we should be supporting women over there. We should be in solidarity with women in Muslim countries, but that doesn't mean that we should bring our values and dominate them with our values, because that's just a very different type of oppression. How would you respond to that, Mon?
And let's spreading democracy and spreading freedom via drones or by invasion doesn't work. It never has worked. Nobody wants it. We don't want it. Nobody is asking, the woman, if you're so worried about, women being suppressed, go help the women in Saudi Arabia. They're very suppressed. They couldn't even drive a few years ago. But why is it that imperialists only want to help the nations where their interest lies, and they want to, somehow use, but they won't do it to their friends? Why don't you do it again to all these Gulf Arab countries that have lots of oil and they're selling it to you for very cheap prices? Their women are suffering too, but it has nothing to do with women, right? It's an excuse, and it's and again, nobody's asking for Western societies to come save us, and if we needed saving, we wouldn't ask the Western societies, because we know that's not what they come for. Yeah, you could be feminist, or you could have, like you said, we could have support each other as women, and we could help each other, but when has that happened? It's not here.
Right.
I haven't seen it.
Right. And that's definitely a big thing. Like, someone just asked in the chat, like, how can we have Afghan women? And we can help Afghan women definitely by, empowering women in that country, by getting involved with, supporting organizations run by Afghan women who are fighting for Afghan women. Like, one of the organizations that I mentioned in that article before, let me find what that name was. It was the Revolutionary Association of the Women of Afghanistan. And also Madre, who was an internationalist women's rights organization founded in 1983 in response to the U.S.-sponsored Contra War, who condemned the invasion. So you can support organizations like them. There are amazing organizations on the ground in Afghanistan who are supporting education for Afghan women. So there are definitely organizations and ways of helping Afghan women without bombing them. And we should definitely find like, if we can get rid of the Taliban and support the Afghan people of getting rid of the Taliban, we should absolutely do that if that's what they want. But we can't force our will on the Afghan people. We have to support what they want. Would you agree with that, Mon?
Absolutely, of course. But you're going into a nation that has it's much older than you. It has tradition, it has history, it has a religion, and you need to respect that, because you're in somebody else's soil, and this is somebody else's traditions it's going back hundreds of years, and you're coming with your technology, whatever. You're like, oh yeah, I'm here, let me teach you how to live. No, get out of here. Like, who are you? Like, nobody wants that. We don't want nobody. And that's why one of the reasons why the local Afghans never accepted the U.S. Even the ones who are helping, because you're talking to the elders, and you're talking about the ones who've lived a certain lifestyle all their lives for generations, and you're gonna come and tell them that your way is wrong. Let me teach you how to live.
Right.
No. it's not
colonial.
Right. No, and that's why it doesn't work. And that's why even when you're training them or you're funding them or whatever, and once you leave, they're like, okay, bye. We don't. You're not going to buy their loyalty. You know, their tradition and their patriotism is, towards their own nationality is much deeper than you. Like, you're just an invader. An invader is an invader. Like, you know,
right.
Even if you go with whatever intentions you go to, I think that's what a lot of the people don't understand. Is like, they're, oh, we're trying to help. No, you're an invader. Like, nobody likes. No, they don't want that.
Right. It would be the same as imagine that, you know, someone else came into your house and say, like, you know what, you're taking care of your kids wrong. And she's like, you know what, I'm going to stay in your house and I'm going to raise your kids for you. And you are not going to have any, like, oh, maybe I might, you know, ask you a few questions, like, you know, what does your kid like to eat? Okay, you want raisin? You're like, okay, they like this food. Well, you're not going to get that, but you're going to have raisins. Like, so sorry. So it's like, okay, what the hell do you think you're doing? Coming to my house, raising my kids without my permission? Like, who the fuck do you think you are?
No, let me just, you know, come and change your way of living. And in the meantime, you know, I might make few mistakes and kill a couple of you people. But, you know, aren't you glad that
I might kill your dog, you know, because, you know, I don't like your dogs. I might kill your dog.
Man, it's exhausting. It's fucking tiring. And you know, we're tired. And somebody, whoever asked about helping Afghan women, we, you know, right now, our community in general, the Afghan women, the community in the Afghans that live in my area, we're just trying to gather resources. We just built, like, we're working on a website where we're gathering some organizations that are helping the Afghans, mostly the Afghan women, who are able to, you know, to help them at least live and give them some form of funding, or if they want to try to get out. You know, so it's I can tell you the website. It's AFG. What is that? Hold on, I'm trying to remember, because we were just building it. It's afgdiasporahub.com.
What is that again? I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, AFG.
AFG.
Yeah.
Right.
Diaspora.
AFG. Yes.
Hub.com. So we're just, and there are multiple websites like that where we're trying to gather ways to help Afghans there. There are a lot of Afghans who have, you know, from different parts of Afghanistan, have come to Kabul to find shelter, to run away, you know, Taliban. They don't know what's going on. They don't know when they can go back home, if they can. And like I said, a lot of minorities who are very scared, who are not Pashtuns, and they've come to Kabul to find anything to live. And they're, you know, everybody's just, it's a chaos. It's a chaos for everybody, and we're just trying to find ways to just, at least they're living, they're okay, and then we'll see what happens. We don't know what's going to happen. We'll see what happens. You know, that's what we're trying to do. And some Afghans who are coming here to US, you know, we're trying to find ways where we can get them a place to live, get them, you know, their kids in school, or get them just adjusted to life here. So that's what we're trying to build. That's what we're working on, and that's what I've been working on the past few days, is just something so we could feel useful, because it is such a it's a feeling of guilt, honestly. And when people always say, aren't you so lucky you live in America? I don't feel lucky. Maybe I should, and at least I should, that I can speak up for others, but I feel guilty because I'm not sure. I'm just another Afghan woman, and there are millions like me, you know. So I don't feel lucky. I feel like I feel like a survivor's guilt, kind of, you know, when you're in a war, and then you know, it's survivor's guilt, because you're just like, why? What did they do? Why do they not deserve a living? Why am I so helpless?
Yeah, I completely understand that, and I can't really even imagine like what you're feeling, like, just know, like, having to, like, sit back and watch and be like, oh, I escaped and a lot of my family didn't, and I can't imagine how heartbreaking it is to kind of have to sit idly by and watch everything that's happening right now. And I mean, we can continue to go on because, as we know, I mean, it doesn't matter whether, when it comes to U.S. intervention, because, you know, we're continue talking about like imperialist feminism, and we can get into a little bit of a conversation about like woke imperialism and, you know, feminist imperialism, however we want to describe it, intersectional imperialism. That's one of the ones I absolutely love, because it's this idea of intersectional imperialism, as in like, oh, you know what? We can have so many different types of oppressors. I love that. Like, this meme has been going around for so long, and I absolutely love it. So I have to share it again because it's just so funny and it's so accurate. And it's this one that says, they say the next ones will be sent by a woman, like talking about drones. So the next drones will be sent by a woman. Really makes you feel like you're part of history. And that's such a funny meme because it's so true that, like, we don't want female oppressors. That's not the whole point of feminism. It's like, we don't want women to be, you know, the heads of these military industrial complex, these military contractors like Lockheed Martin. Do I really give a shit if Lockheed Martin has a female CEO? No, because she's still involved in bombing countries like Afghanistan and Iraq and in Syria. Like, I don't give a shit if it's being done by a woman. I think, yes, Bisquick, as you said, more female drone pilots. That's feminism. Like I know we've all seen the hilarious CIA ad about how intersectional the CIA is now. The CIA has gone woke. And it's so entertaining to watch everybody just like, yes, queen, all this imperialism. It's like, I don't give a shit if it's a woman bombing another country. I don't care. Like, there was another meme that I saw earlier today that was, I don't think I have it anymore. Actually, let me see if I can find it. But it's basically, let me see if I can find it. But while I'm looking for it, let me get your comment on that.
No, I was just laughing because just like, you know, when we got Kamala, and they were like, oh, you know, somebody asked me like, don't you love it that she's a brown woman? And I said, yeah, you know, it's so nice to have an imperialist brown woman. Now I feel so included, and she has, you know, my hair, and she looks like me, and, you know, so I was like, I feel so special. I was like, that I just feel so included in this. So it's not just, you know, one color. They come in all colors and very inclusive.
Yes, you know, as long as we have, you know, trans drone pilots and gay drone pilots and black female drone pilots, you know, that's what we're really looking for, you know. As a James was like, Meg, you mean you don't care if that woman is brown? I don't want any drone pilots. I don't want anybody going into other countries and murdering men or women. I don't want any of that shit. Like, what's so funny, I posted about the fact I'm gonna have Erica, the white trash socialist, on it soon, I hope, because I really want to talk to her about this, because, as you know, a former veteran herself, maybe I'll get a Feeny on that show too, because I know she was also in the military. But you know, the fact that, you know, women, you know, being in the military is not a good thing for women, because, you know, women are also highly sexually assaulted in the military, or raped or murdered by their own fellow soldiers. So the military is not a good place for women. But they actually, one of the things that they want to do is they want to make the selective service. Like, there's a bill going around in the Senate right now. They want to make women required to join the selective service just like men. And I posted about this, like, no, let's just abolish the selective service, because I don't think anybody should be drafted to the military, including men. But, you know, when I posted that, like, I saw a lot of, oh, but, you know, if men have to do it, women should have to do it too. Like, no, let's just have nobody have to do it. And there's this meme that I saw right before the show that I want to share, because it's really entertaining. Yeah, like being woke here goes. You're absolutely right. Being woke is kind of toxic, but because it's being used in the wrong way. Because very much like the way that is being woke is being used is that it's serving capitalism, is serving militarism, is serving imperialism. And we're not trying to get to a place where women and men are equal in a peaceful way. So this is the other meme that I saw. It's that, sure, we could get rid of the trans military ban. Like, we could do that. And, I support that. I support getting rid of the trans military ban. But I love that this is like like the Drake meme, like, that's not cool. Extending that ban to cis people as well. Oh, that's kind of a hot take. It's like, let's just not have anybody in the military. Let's ban everybody from being in the military. Because I don't want female drone pilots. I don't want male drone pilots. I don't want black drone pilots. I don't want Latino drone pilots. I don't want trans drone pilots. I don't think anybody should be in the military. We should just ban everybody from being in the military. What do you think, Mon? Oh, I thought I unmuted you. Hold on. Why are you not unmuting? Oh, you need to unmute yourself. There you go.
The whole military system in the U.S. is a scam, and I've always said, this is me. I've talked to a lot of military people. I used to work at Walter Reed. I was a nurse there, so I used to talk to them. And I don't think I've ever met military people who actually joined because they're so patriotic and they just love their country, and it's usually like, why did you join? It's because for school, so they could get paid for school, so they could get housing, so they could get a health care. It's not, and this is unlike a lot of other countries. People don't join. They're like, I just want to fight for like. I feel like in US, it's a scam where people are trapped into or tricked into joining a military to fight in wars, to invade other countries, and to spread capitalism and imperialism.
Like poor brown people killing other poor brown people.
Who are you fighting? Nobody's attacking. Like, nobody's fighting you back. Like, you're invading. So, and again, the poor 18-year-old, 19-year-olds are not told this, right? They don't know what, they just want their benefits. And I have, like I said, I have people in the military, and I do sympathize with them, but at the same time, right, that's exactly what it is. And it's that's what it is. It's a scam, because
it's poverty draft. Yeah,
and it's poverty draft. I've met guys who just they stay as long as their college gets paid and they're out, and they get that GI Bill, and that's what they want. And I mean, yeah, good for you. But at the same time, they don't know where they're going to get deployed. They don't know which wars they're going to fight. And the way it's separated, whether it's the Navy, the Army, the Marines, they select you based on your personality, and they select you based on what are you capable of doing. And I've noticed that, because you have to be a certain type to be recruited for the Marine. You have to be a certain type. How angry are you? How many mental health you have to be in the Air Force, because you have to be able to drop drones. You have to have that capability. And again, I have a conflicted feeling about them. I feel sorry for them because they are kids. I feel like they're 18, 19-year-olds, poor people, or they get recruited in high school and senior year, or, but at the same time, I don't, because you're still an adult and you made these choices. When I watch videos of my people getting killed, being murdered, and these, they kill children, and they're dropping drones, and or they're going in person and shooting a farmer in their heads, then I don't feel, no, you're sick. Like, there's a choice that you make at that point. There's a certain point, your system is using you. It's a shitty system, but you come at it's you. You have to take some accountability and some responsibility for your actions. You're committing crime. So I think, do I feel sorry for them? But at the same time, there's a choice, and I don't know, because where are we drawing the lines? And are we feeling sorry for Taliban too? Because a lot of them joined as children and they didn't have food, and they joined the Taliban because the Taliban gave them food, so they joined. So are we feeling sorry for them?
It's like we said, earlier on in the stream, like a lot of them get radicalized because they they lost their homes to, you know, the United States, you know, drone bombing their neighborhood. So they lose their homes, and you know, there are these foreign invaders who are coming into their country. And so, like, what other, you know, when they're poor and, as you say, like, they have no food and the United States just drone bombed their house, then, you know, they're prime for radicalization. You know, they're going to be more likely to want to join the Taliban and become suicide
how can you
bombers.
not want to, right? The
Yeah.
ones in those kids in Iraq, those kids in Syria, the ones whose villages you've bombed, how does that child not want to grow up and murder you and destroy your country?
Mm-hmm. Right, like how many revenge movies have we seen of the, like, oh, you killed my, like, I am Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die. It's like, it's a revenge flick. like how many times we have to see that revenge flick over and over and over again?
Horrible, right? Because these actions have consequences.
Exactly.
They have generational consequences. Like you're leaving. When you murder a family, when you murder somebody's father, you're not just destroying one person, right? It's you're destroying families, and in this generation, you're causing trauma for years and years and years to come.
Yeah,
and that has consequences. So, hey, anyways,
yeah.
it's tragic. Capitalism sucks.
No, 100%. I love this one. The country of stand your ground can't understand anti-imperialism.
Right?
That's funny.
Alrighty.
I mean, I think the point though that they're trying to make with that comment is, like, you know, we're the country of, like, oh, you're coming on my property, I get to kill you if you're coming onto my property, and we're going onto other people's property, and so, like, I demand that you do things my way. So I think it's hilarious.
Me, and you should accept me, and you should like me. And
we're liberators. We're gonna free you from your house.
You know, but we're spending money though, and so why don't you like us? Like, and anyways,
yeah, and you know, we've been talking about this all along throughout the entire stream. It's like the history of Afghanistan and that socialist history of Afghanistan. The fact that there was a period in which there was a lot of modernization, a long period, you know, a period of, you know, equality that was burgeoning, that, you know, women were able to go to school and become doctors, and there was more equality. Like, women were building co-ops, and that was during their relationship with the Soviet Union. So, you know, we talk a lot about socialism here in the United States as well. The fact that I did a whole video last week about, you know, oh, what does it mean to support women? And, you know, people saying, like, you know, we have to put money in the hands of women. Okay, great ways of, you know, helping women, you know, have money in their pockets, paying them for their unpaid labor. Women do billions of dollars of unpaid labor every single year. Like, there's so much that women do that we do not get recognition for. It doesn't matter where we are in the world. Like, Germany actually tried doing this after World War II, because after World War II, like, most of the men were dead in Germany. So the women were the backbone of the German economy. And so much of what was built on German women's backs. So we have to kind of keep that in mind. And so much of that labor that they did, that so much of the economy then became built around policing, you know, and offering consumership to the women. And women even fought for like paid domestic labor. Like, whatever work they were doing at home, they wanted domestic workers' bill of rights. And I know that that's something that women are fighting for here in the United States as well, that we should have a domestic labor bill of rights for women who are doing all this unpaid labor. So many caretakers in this country are women. And there's an amazing book that you guys should read, and it's called Why Women Have Better Sex Under Socialism. And a lot of it is because of the economic equality that women feel when they're under socialism. And the way that she found this out was because she researched a lot of women in these post-Soviet Eastern European countries. And she would interview them, and a lot of them said, like, they had much better lives during the Soviet regime, because of communism. They had so much more equality, and so they actually had, because they were happier, they didn't feel like they were having transactional relationships with men in order for survival, that they were having better sex because they were having equal sex. And so I highly recommend that book. I will put it in the description below, but definitely check out that book, Why Women Have Better Sex Under Socialism. And I will try to get that author on the show because I really want to talk to her. Mon, did you have...
Yeah, no, that's funny. I'll check it out. I believe it. I'm going to have to get a call for our little group for the Afghan females, so I'm going to have to leave you soon. But for capitalist feminism is also...
Yeah, absolutely optimism will. Because capitalism... So this is something that Bell Hooks often calls patriarchy. She calls it imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy, because those things are not mutually exclusive. Capitalism is imperialist. Capitalism is racist. Capitalism is patriarchal. There is no getting around that. It is because we have these hierarchical systems. So pro-capitalist feminism is also imperialist feminism. There is no getting around that. And so feminism has to be anti-imperialist if it's ever going to truly bring equality for women. So we have to be anti-imperialist. Did I lose Mon? Not sure if I lost her or not. Let me bring up this point. In a truly socialist system, everyone's chill and relaxed, unlike the anxiety. Exactly, because we have, in a socialist system, we have ownership of the means of production, meaning that we are being more fulfilled at work. Oh, I think I lost Mon. I think I lost her. Hopefully she'll come back in a minute. Yeah, capitalism is definitely predatory. You're definitely right on that, Deep Moody Purple Blues. Okay, we got her back. She's back.
Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I couldn't hear you earlier. My phone is dying, so that's why I feel like I'm gonna lose you. But yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, luckily we're almost done.
I missed like the past 5 minutes of what you said because I was trying to hear you.
Yeah, I mean, luckily we're almost done, so we'll be done before your phone dies.
You're good. You're good.
Let me bring up this other one from Deep. Tally up what it would cost you to pay someone to do everything that the women in our lives do. You couldn't afford it. Emotional labor alone is priceless. 100%. There is so much. Okay, so I think that Mon has to get going in a couple minutes. So before we lose Mon, tell us a little bit more about the organization that you're involved with, the Afghan Diaspora Hub, and tell the people where they can find you on the internet.
Well, I'm on Twitter all the time, so you can find me on Twitter. I'm on Meg's Twitter too. I'm always yelling about something.
Me too.
That's right. I get all my anger out. But our website that we're working on still, it's afgdiasporahub.com, and that's just a bunch. We are trying to collect all the organizations that are currently helping the Afghan people that are in Afghanistan and the ones who are going to be coming to US. I think we're getting a couple of hundred soon, and hopefully more as more flights are able to come out.
I left out the G, but that should be afgdiasporahub.com.
Yes.
Yeah, I just left out the G. Sorry about that, guys.
No, I think, and we have, we've tried to research these organizations because we want to make sure that they're going to the right place. They're going to the right people, and it's because there's a lot of other stuff on the internet. We're trying to find ways to help. We're just looking for ways to help these people because they are helpless right now, and they're they don't know what to do, and they don't know how to get out of the situation they're in. Like I said, they're screwed on both sides, so we're just trying to find ways for them to survive.
All right, here's a interesting question. Do you know anything about the Afghan Marxist-Leninist Maoist?
I don't, but you can tell me, Rob.
It's a find Mon on Twitter, and maybe you can ask her about. Maybe you guys can talk about that. Yeah. Oh, this is another good point from Whatever Man. The German and Japanese women built their countries after World War II. What if the USA had lost? And that's definitely one of the only reasons that the United States was able to flourish so much after World War II is because none of that havoc was done on U.S. soil aside from Pearl Harbor. Like all those other countries were destroyed. Yeah, James, I know that link is I misspelled the link. It was AFG. Let me
Here.
let me put that in again. AFG diaspora hub.com. Okay, I put it back in. So hopefully that should help. AFG diaspora hub.com. All right. So we have just a few more minutes. Let me just look at a couple more of these comments. So Fetish Magic asks, what's your Twitter handle?
Mine? Yeah. What is mine, Meg? Can you find out? I'm like, I don't remember it right now.
It's Mon Loves You, right?
I think so. Mon _ loves you.
Yeah. Mon. So it's at Mon _ loves you. I'll put that in the comments as well. Yeah, so definitely go follow Mon. She's amazing.
I'm angry, and people always say, they're like, you tell us about your Twitter, and I was like, I'm just an angry Afghan woman, and a refugee Afghan woman who's been here plenty of years.
Yeah, that should just be your Twitter bio. Angry Afghan woman screaming on Twitter. Just an angry Afghan woman
screaming into the void.
Tired of imperialism.
Tired of imperialism. So I swear, and
just give us a rest.
My whole life is shaped by imperialism. I literally, I've been taken away from my home, family. The way my life's shaped is literally revolves around imperialism. So I cannot not be political. Like I have met men, on dates, or I've been on dates where they're like, you're too political, or you're too angry, and I'm like, I have no other way to be. That's literally
if you're not angry, you're not paying attention.
And that's my life. Like I'm sorry, it's affected me so much. It must have been nice for you to have a nice comfortable life, but I've lived half of my life in war. Like I have no other way to be. My whole childhood was in war, and I've lived in refugee camps. Like what? Of course, that's my life is centered around that. So I can't not be angry.
Exactly. 100%. Like if you're not paying attention, if you're not listening to these stories and you're not getting angry, there's something wrong with you. There's something absolutely wrong with you. If you're not, you have no empathy. If you're not getting angry when you hear stories like Mon's, you are sociopathic. You have no empathy.
Like you're so angry, or you're so emotional. Like you're so political. I mean, how are you not political? Like everything from your healthcare to your day-to-day life, from your education to where you live and why you live there, it's all affected by politics. So how can you not be political? Like it must be a privilege. I hope you're that privileged where you don't have to do anything with politics ever.
Exactly. 100%. All right, guys. So we are at the end of our show. So make sure to please hit that like and subscribe. Support Fred Hampton Leftists, and also go over and subscribe to the Killjoy Guide podcast. Make sure that you're following me there too. That way you can see clips of all these different episodes and anything else I put over there. I have a couple of interviews coming up. I look forward to seeing you guys on Thursday, in which I will have Bess from Millennial Splaining and our dear friend from right here at Fred Hampton, it's just Sabby Sabs. We'll be talking about millennial feminism. So definitely come check us out on Thursday. I will see you guys then. Thank you so much, Mon, for coming on. I really appreciate you.
Thanks, everyone.
Like, it's been such a pleasure having you.
Pleasure being here. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. And also make sure to follow Fred Hampton Leftist. Support the show on Ko-fi. If you want to support the Killjoy guy directly, just tag Killjoy or Meg, however you want to do that. And also continue to support your favorite independent news. You know, we have our FHL swag. We have a newsletter. Thank you, Indie News, for helping us develop that newsletter, so you guys can always keep up with whatever's happening at FHL. Follow all of our content, all of our tweets. Also, hit me up about Discord. I do have a Discord that I'm looking to have people come and join me on, so keep an eye out for that. All right, all that being said, this has been the Killjoy Guide. I am your host, Killjoy Meg, and we will see you Killjoys next time. All right. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another video. See you Killjoys next time.